Hey guys, Chad Andrews here, the 33 Rule and Project Echelon. We are moving on to another one of our videos, and this guy has been around the sport of bike racing ever since I've been around it, which is, we don't want to go into how long that is, but it's been a very long time. So without further ado, Pat Rains, man, welcome to our little doodle-diddly that we're doing for Project Echelon.
Glad to be here, Chad. Glad somebody thinks I'm important to Winston Salem cycling.
Well, clearly you came highly recommended, so I don't know whether that's good or bad or that's just an inside job, but we don't care. We'll take them how we get them. All right. So I just understood this is going to go public. This is your first live video in how long?
Forever. I don't think I've ever enabled my camera on my computer.
I'm surprised you figured it out.
Well, I was almost prepared to use my wife's computer.
Oh, were you really? All right. Tell us the legacy. Tell us who Pat Rains is. And I know that you're not a very boastful person, so I'm not going to ask for that. But tell us kind of not who you are, but kind of what you are to the Winston-Salem cycling scene.
Well, I'm a guy, I think, who fell into the right place at the right time. As I was coming up in the sport, I was an average cyclist. I don't think I was great. I was 1/3 student, 1/3 cyclist, and 1/3 party boy. And I was the jack of all trades, master of none. And having found myself exiting the sport and migrating away from it, enjoying and getting a job, I had regrets. Looking back, I wish I had the mentorship or just ability to pursue one of those. So I had regrets that, could I have been a better student? Could I have been a better cyclist? I don't know if I could have partied anymore, but so I did have regrets about, my commitment to the sport and having left it in the way I did. That was, it did have, moments where I wish I had focused on one and been, and see where that led me. And so as I left the sport, I moved away, I started my career, and then I came back in and I did a race at Winston-Salem, and Jamie and Eric Saunders came up to me and said, we have this opportunity and we're trying to create opportunities for young cyclists. And at that time I was really seeking, I had a lot of extra time at that time, and I was seeking to find some place where I could add value. And I was literally thinking about, going to the animal shelter on weekends and volunteering my time, or even joining the Boy Scouts. Honestly, I was speaking something of value to add my time to, and here's Jamie and Eric at the right time. He's saying, hey, we have this opportunity. We're trying to create value for young cyclists. And, based on my past and based on, where I was in my life at the time, I was like, yeah, that's fantastic. Let me be involved. I would love to be involved. Not realizing exactly what I was signing up for, and the level of commitment that I was making, but I was really all, really all in. And I was prepared to provide that mentorship and leadership and opportunity for a bunch of young kids that could really jump in, commit to one thing, do it as best they could, and and if they were great at it, fantastic. And if they left the sport, moved on, they wouldn't look back with the same regrets that I had.
So what year, when you said that you were 1/3 party or 1/3 book nerd and then 1/3 bike racer, what year was that?
That was probably 88, 87, 80, 86, 87 through like 92.
Oh, okay. So that was back in kind of the prime time of not really prime time, but when a lot of us got kicked off during that time period between 88 and 92.
And it was a fantastic time. And it was, there were so many opportunities. And Eric even said to me, I was really, he said to me later on after the fact that he was like, you were a guy that was doing it by yourself, privateer, and, I didn't have the team. I didn't have all the resources. I didn't know what I didn't know, and when that's one of the lessons that we talked about, with the team through years, is like, you don't know what you don't know. And if you're just, swimming there, wasting your time paddling around, you're not going to get anywhere. And so we were, really trying to provide the opportunity, but also the mentorship and leadership to make that time as valuable to those guys as it was.
When you came back, did you leave Winston-Salem and then come back?
I was actually never in Winston-Salem. I lived in Raleigh. I've lived in Raleigh. And then, so I was doing a race in Winston. I moved to DC. I moved to DC for about 5 years. And then I moved back to the area, and I just kind of picked up my bike and I went and did this, this race. I was not racing. I was not training. I was not doing whatever. And I just showed up at this race. And next thing I know, they're pulling me aside and saying, "Hey, we want you to be involved." And
wow.
Yeah, and so I was like, "Oh, that's fantastic. That's great." And then, then it kind of evolved, and we want you to be a rider. We want you to we want you to be on the road. We want you to be on the road with these guys. We want you to be like, and I was like, wow, that's a long time ago, and I don't think I was that great when I was, when I was doing it. Now you want me to be on the road with them. And like I said, I jumped in full, full feet, ready to go. And so what I was able to provide, there's a lot of guys like Eric Saunders, like Thomas Craven, like Mike Creed, who have the pedigree and the experience and leadership to lead the guys from the car. And I didn't have that, and I didn't necessarily have that pedigree or expertise or experience. And so I built that, and I built my credibility with the guys on the road with them. I never asked them to do more training or eat better or do anything else that I wasn't prepared to do myself. And with that, if they weren't doing something, I held them accountable. And we were mutually accountable to each other. We were mutually accountable to their teammates. And, so I was, if they weren't doing something right, or they were tired, or I can't train this week, I don't feel good, I was like, well, listen, I'm doing it and I got a job, and you better do it, because this is your time, this is your opportunity, and you're going to make the most of it. If you don't want to take it and you don't want to have that chance, then then go somewhere else.
Well, let's take a step back. Who is in the infrastructure of this thing? Obviously, you're talking about Jamie and Eric. Did they approach you at a race to help this burgeoning concept?
Yes, yeah. I think it was Haynes Park. I think I was Haynes Park. I just showed up and did it, and then they called me up afterwards and said, well, I said hello to them. We, it said chatting with them at the race, and the next thing you know, a couple of days later, I got a call and say, hey, we want you to meet. We want to talk about this thing that we're doing. And yeah, so I was like, okay, great. That sounds really interesting. I went and met with them and figured out what we were talking about.
What was this thing?
Well, it was like the Cycle Safe project involved, and it was the development team, and coming, like I said, I was trying to find a place for my time and my value to add value to the community and add value to something. And they were just hitting all the right notes. Like we want to do this development for riders. We want to give them the opportunity. We want to have this bridge that didn't exist for Jamie or Eric or myself. We want to have, this, create this real opportunity for these guys to just dive in, make the most of their time in cycling. And like I said, if they're great at it, they're fantastic. They'll move out of our program. And Eric was very blunt. He's very, just forthright. And he said, like, listen, it's also our job to tell them that maybe they should go back to school. Maybe this isn't the thing for them, and they should go off and do something else.
Here is this the timeline? Is this correct? It's Cycle Safe, then Time, then
I think they were burgeoning. They were the same thing. They were burgeoning ideas. It was the Cycle Safe was a project around the racing, and then you had the Time, the Time team that was going to be the development team that was going to be a division of Cycle Safe.
Okay.
It was going to be the Cycle Safe was also a sponsor of the team, and it was going to promote. They were going to unilaterally promote each other.
Okay. And so the team manifestation goes Time, and then was it Mountain Khakis? No, there was something in between.
It was Time, and then it was Time Factory, and then
Time
it was
Factory.
Time Pro Factory,
Okay.
and then we became Mountain Khakis.
Okay. For those of you who are watching, it's actually over Pat's left shoulder. I think the very first iteration of the team.
This is one of the later ones. This is the
Oh, is it?
Jittery Joes. This is Mountain Khakis fueled by
Oh my God.
fueled
Right.
by Jittery Joes.
I forgot about that. Totally forgot about that. Okay. Why did you were looking for a space when you got into it? I saw you kind of go, man, this is a lot more, which is the case for every person who gets into this industry from a management standpoint. At what point did you go, okay, this is way more than I bargained for?
Uh, Probably immediately, right? It was immediately more than, I was driving to Winston Salem now, once a week, twice a week, meetings here, doing whatever. They're telling me what kind of races we're doing. And, next thing I know is Eric's got these stage races on the calendar, and he's like, yeah, and you're going to be the fifth guy. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm going to be the fifth guy, He's like, yeah, we don't have enough guys. You're going to have to do it. And, it was.
Who was on that team? Do you remember?
Oh yeah, it was Brandon McKeever, Jared Gruber, David Duncan, Chris Monteleone, and Tiago DePaula.
Oh my God.
And then we brought in Andy Baker. We put out a publicity thing saying, hey, does anybody want to be on this team? Come up and talk to us. Show us your desire. Show us that you have this passion. Show us that you want to just, go head on to this, and we will provide the resources you do it. And one kid came up to us, and that was Andy Baker.
Wow. Was that when he was at Furman?
No, this was before that. He was in high school.
Gosh. So this is when he was like 19 or 18.
Yeah, he was a junior. He was coming up, and he was the only one who responded to that. And of course, we took him in without question. If you got that's what we wanted. We wanted people to be advocates for themselves, to say, this is what I want. This is what I'm prepared to do the work. I want to do it. And because we were all about that. We were all about this was an opportunity that Jamie and Eric and I, that we didn't have as cyclists when we were that age. And, we had the passion, we had the desire, we had the will, but we just didn't have the resources, and we didn't have the leadership or mentorship.
Were you surprised that Andy was the only one?
Yeah, 100%. We were surprised that Andy was the only one.
Like, we have this carte blanche thing here where we're trying to teach and educate young cyclists to be new pros, and he was the only one. That's mind-boggling to me.
And and of course we took him in immediately. We
sure, we don't know you, but come on in.
Yeah, without question.
He cut his teeth pretty good there for the whole team. I mean, Monteleone did. I mean, there's just some great flashbacks, names that we're actually going to be interviewing as we get further into it. What's your relationship with a guy that I just saw on Instagram get second place at the short track race, John Hamlin?
Oh, John's fantastic, right? And John is so, he's the consummate pro. He's the guy who did everything on his, by himself, did it against the grain, but now he's settled into dad life. He's giving back, and he's giving back so much to the sport right now. Him and like Joe Carprasasi and John, they're the guys that have picked up the reins now in Winston-Salem and are providing the opportunities and things. They're the guys carrying on the legacy now, so I mean, if all John has to do is pick up the phone, and I would do anything for him or for his program.
Right.
It's like, same thing with Joe, any of those guys. That's the reason why we're having these calls today, is because those guys are, they've picked up the reins, and they're taking the leadership into, in Winston-Salem, and, and creating the opportunities for, John's creating it for, younger guys. Joe's creating it for, elite riders.
Who is, if we go back to that time period, now that we've, sorry, I didn't mean to backtrack on you with John Hamlin.
No.
Who was the one guy that you were like, in the area, that you were just like, this guy can race a bike? God, he's so good. Or she.
Oh, there's so many, right? But it goes beyond that, right? It goes beyond to like, there's so many guys that can race their bikes and were so talented that just didn't have the panache or didn't have the desire, didn't have the willpower to, to do whatever, to do the things they needed. And that was the thing that was great about the team that we did, is we took guys that really were second, that people were overlooking. Jared Gruber, David Duncan, guys that, people were casting out. And we brought them into this program. And you hear all these tales and stories of these, these super leagues or super seasons where, you have all these guys that came in, the magic of coming together, and this team, this magical season where everybody was in, or the common goal or the shared experience. And I think we got so much joy and pleasure out of those first couple of years, is because we really experienced that. We brought in, it's easy to find guys with, it's easy to find guys that are good. It's finding the guys that can play together and play as a team was always the challenge. And I think that's where we had this magical formula that, enabled that, for a lot of years. And then we were able to grow the team and bigger, and it got, that some of that magic was, I wouldn't say not present. It was just harder to,
Sure.
To pull together. But yeah, those first couple of years, we had a formula, and it was great, and it was mutual accountability to them, to themselves, to their teammates, and to, Jamie and Eric and I.
I've got a video actually that that my ex-wife uploaded. She found like an iMemories thing, and it was the team launch and team with Adam and Thomas Brown and you guys, and we were all at, gosh, I can't remember, is it Craven's house? I don't remember, but I can't wait to share it, because it's just like, whoa, this is a throwback. I mean, it was, what year was it? Anyway, I'm getting lost in my own conversation, but it made me think about all those riders that became a part of like Mountain Khakis, or the next iteration of, going from Cycle Safe to Time Factory to Time Pro Factory and all that. But there is one lasting memory that I did bring up to Eric, which you may smile at, or you may go, oh my God, I don't remember doing that. I was racing in the 1-2 race, and I was there for Ben Falk because I was his lead out guy. And I remember you guys taking the entire team to the front. This was at the Hidden Cappy Spring Series. All the guys to the front, all the way to the back, all the way to the front, all the way to the back, because you had to teach them how to actually get bottles, deliver them, whether you had to take your sprint to the front. And everybody's like, what are they doing? I was like, oh my God, this is so great. Because none of these kids know a damn thing about how to do this.
Well, I think it's funny that you think that's what it looked as organized as it was, because it was probably a moment of disorganization. Is when we told them that if you didn't make the break, a lot of times in teams, and you complimented Eric on it. It was like, yeah, you guys got organized. A lot of times, like, sit back, okay, let's go for 3rd place, let's go for 5th place, let's go for, and it was like, no, it's like, if you guys miss the break, if you miss the move, you're going to chase, and you're going to get on the front, and you're going to chase. And so a lot of that, what you may have saw as going to the front and going to the back, was really the guys that were, now quitting and saying, no, I'm going to save it for the end. And it's like, no, we're going to get you guys back up there. You have to be at the front. That is your job right now, is to be at the front and to chase. And if you guys miss a move in any race, this is where you will find yourself, as a team.
In the worst possible spot.
Yeah, and your race is gonna be gone. You're gonna chase every race if you miss the break. And I guarantee you that, from that moment on, we were never missing moves. And that was a lesson that Eric did, and it was a lesson for me. It was like, I was part of that chase. I had to sit up there and chase and do it, and I was like, this is not this is not my vision of my, I think right now I'd rather be at the animal shelter, you know.
And that's when you were
No,
what, in your 30s, right?
it taught us a lot, and it taught the guys a lot, and it taught them that, you know, you were mutual, again, it was about mutual accountability, and you were mutually accountable to your team, to your, you know, your teammates, and to yourself. And there was no cover from that.
Do you think they got the picture after the first couple times?
100%, 100%. Because every race after that, if you look at every race after that, we were attacking at every opportunity.
Wasn't one of the more interesting victories too after that situation was Eric Bolovev when he won in New York City?
Harlem.
When he,
Harlem Skycraper.
yeah, Harlem, when he crashed in front of Rasan and
well, he didn't wear gloves, and he was sprinting and his hand slipped. They were all sweaty and his hand slipped. You know, it's funny because I was kind of in charge of the social media of the team, and you know, and just him posting up wouldn't have gotten that much attention. But you know, that picture still gets passed around today.
I agree. Well, even like Rasan's his response to it, like, "Oh my God, what just happened in front of me? Is this guy crazy or what?" Like,
and you can see Adam. You can see Adam right in the background. He's center frame of it too, and he's like, yeah, he's like, you know, everybody's, what's happened?
Here's the win, and then, oh my God, what just happened? Oh, that's such a great story. What are some of the other great stories, maybe that are a little more PG, like the van, which we've all talked about? Like I told the funny story about riding back with the team after John Eustace's race because of the hurricane, and all my flights were canceled. So I had to ride back to Greensboro and then ride with Andy Baker back to Charlotte because I couldn't get home. And it was comical. It was absolutely comical.
There's so many, but there's one where we were up in Somerville, New Jersey, or Virginia, or somewhere else. We were traveling back, and we were in the van, and we had a big coming together with the guys about, you know, reaching out to the community. And you're wearing your sponsors and you're wearing your uniforms, and when people come up to you and ask questions, and be engaging, you know, don't be cold shoulder. You know, this could be potentially your next sponsor, your next, you know, supporter of the team or fan. And I said, be engaging, you know, be open, you know, be communicative. And so, you know, and the guys, you know, in their best effort, you know, are, you know, trying to be receptive to that. So we stopped for gas and had a gas station. And one of the guys goes in, I won't say who it is, goes into the store and the guy comes up to him and asks questions. You know, he's asking him questions about the team. We all look over our shoulders, and then we all kind of slip out and leave him be. We kind of run away from that. And he spends about 15 minutes in there, and eventually comes out of the store, and he's like, yeah, I got the guy's number. And then we drove down the road. No one said anything for about 15, 20 minutes. And, you know, I finally said, you know, he was telling us about the exchanging of the numbers and addresses and different things. And about, you know, no one said anything. We were all just dead silent. And about 30 minutes down the road, I said, David, you know, you just hooked up with that guy, you know?
Oh, poor Gutton plan.
He's like,
I know who it was.
He's like, oh, I didn't know.
What a great story. Oh my God, I bet you he would die laughing too when he sees this. There's somebody, for those people who don't know, that's part of the allure, but also part of the hell that is professional cycling, especially domestically, is, you know, the van drives for hours and hours and hours, and the conversations that go on. Was that a mentoring option for you guys, or was it just let the kids be kids?
No, it was a balance. And remember, from my past, you know, there was a gray area that if you got too much into just out of bounds, it was too easy to stay there, you know. So we had each of the guys had a short period of time on the team, and we did everything we could to optimize every minute of that. And so there was not a lot of times where we let them just go, you know. There were things, you know, they did go out of
reservation.
Yeah, they did go out of bounds quite a bit, but we pulled them back in as quickly as we could.
Good. I mean, they're kids. They were kids. Is there? Do you still talk to any of those kids at all?
Most of them.
Oh, that's so good. Is it just to check in on their life and how they're doing?
It's actually more than that. I mean, to be real honest with you, I don't say this, and I guess I'm saying it to everybody now. My evaluation of success with the team and an individual was not in that moment, not when they won their bike race, not when they done it, not had they, were two things where they look back at that time and had no regrets. Like that was time that was value add to me. And and as they moved on with their life and career and everything else like this, would they invite me to their wedding?
Oh, wow.
And that was my standard. That was my goal. That was my standard. And that's how, and certainly I failed in some cases. There were some incidents and some riders where I didn't make that connection and I failed. And I do think about those, but for the majority of them, I made strong connections and strong bonds. And so for guys coming into the sport, there's guys like Nima with the Kate. I just say that, don't look at it in the moment, build these relationships. Cycling it's cyclical. Like you'll come back and somebody like me will come back, 10 years later and now be really engaged and really involved. And if I have a positive experience early on, I'm more likely to do that. And so I just encourage like guys like Joe and John. John's building lifelong relationships with these kids. They're going to come back and they're going to be the ones, 10 years from now, providing the next opportunity for the next generation. And so that was my gold standard is, would they invite me? Would I still be part of their lives 10 years down the road?
What did you learn about you?
Oh, that was probably a terrible cyclist. Now I could have, that I could have better. I had a lot of missed opportunities. I don't know. I think
you're beating yourself up a little too much. You were a very and still are a very good cyclist. So
I wasn't good. If you say that, the reality was I wasn't good because I was some talented cyclist, and despite the riders, I was good because of them.
Right.
Because they were my daily motivation. I think I was much better in my 30s and 40s than I was in my 20s. And that's just because I had mutual accountability. I had guys that were depending on me and counting on me, performing.
Do you think that the sport is where it was when it was like me and Gordon Steele and you and Barney and Ronnie and Creed? I mean, Rick Creed, those guys. Do you feel that we're there as the sport changed so much so that in the Southeast and other masters, because I use that word liberally, around the country, do you find the sport is different now than it was back then? And if so, or if not, why?
I think it is. It's just getting older, right? We're not having the influx of youth into the sport, and it's just getting older and older. So it's tough. It's and Rich Harper. I personally wish, people would race their category, not their age.
Right.
I just it's just there's too many races at a race weekend. There's too many subcategories, so many divisions, too many prizes.
Really?
I think so. I think we should just do it for, reduce the prize list and just reduce the barriers to entry and have more people competing.
So so you'd rather not have a 20-person Masters 40 plus field. You'd rather have a Cat 3 field of like 60 guys or something.
I think so.
Okay. I don't have a problem with that.
I think so.
Who's going to be more fit for the Grand Fondo, you or John?
John. That way I have plausible deniability. John's so he'll deny it as well, right? But he's just so naturally fit. He's just so naturally fit and naturally that I would never bet against him.
Well, I asked Eric the same question. He just laughed. He goes, I'll be first in beers, but other than that, I'm not going to be probably on my bike. I was like, really? So this is kind of a reunion, but it's not really a reunion on the bike. It's just a reunion of bodies.
Yeah, and this is all a product of like, what's going on in Winston-Salem like today. And, it's led by Joe and John and those guys. And that's, it's, if those guys weren't stepping up, if those guys weren't leading the charge right now, we probably wouldn't be doing any of this. So kudos to them. And,
The last question before I let you go and get back to work. Do you think that the Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, Greensboro, Charlotte cycling scene that started many, many years ago, do you think it could go up against any other kind of area as far as development and racing and that kind of stuff over the years, over the past 30 years?
Well, I gotta play my hand on this one. I've heard that question before from you and everything, but I gotta play my hand on this one. Is I am an advocate of Athens, Georgia.
Okay.
The WBL and what they do down there, and I have lived down there and have done whatever. So I'm an advocate of the Athens, Georgia scene, and now the Greenville, South Carolina scene is becoming a really popular thing. But I think coaches and power meters and everything else like this have kind of been dividing group rides, big group rides and massive communities into smaller
Not
subsets.
me, by the way, not me.
Well, I just, I think a lot of these big communities where you had, you came out now become Power Fest or Strava section, challenges. And, I think that's detrimental to a lot of new people entering the cycling community.
And you bring off some cool names to bring that to kind of full circle, like, to hear Jared's name pop up several times, and him coming down to, I think he was a part of that crew that you guys brought down to do testing at my very first training center back in God, I don't even remember, that was so many years ago. But I think Jared was there, and to hear you bring up Athens and the Athens group ride, with those guys. I think the Southeast in itself is just become like this. There's a historical perspective to all of us because of me doing the Athens group ride, or you doing it, and all the names that have come from that and grown and gone on either to do other things outside of the sport. But Jared, staying in the sport, and he's become a pretty famous guy in his own right for a various other reasons that are in the sport. So yeah, I have a tendency, nobody's brought that up, but Athens, yeah. I mean, even though we're talking about Winston-Salem, they're part of that co-located, not too far away from each other, sharing the love type thing. Did any of the guys from the Raleigh and Winston-Salem area back then, because I was always commentating it, so I haven't been, go down and do the WBL to kind of size themselves up?
I don't know if it's sized up, but yeah, we went down there. We'd always spend a week or two down there. There's so many good cyclists back there that were, you had Euro pros there, guys training, and it was just the place to be, and you would have a lot. Yeah, you could size yourself up there real easily.
Cool.
But yeah, it was.
All right. Well, listen, we'll let you get back to work. I can't thank you enough. I appreciate it. There's so many stories that we could go into, but I'm trying to keep these into 30 minutes or less. And we could for sure go to a rabbit hole of fun and chicanery. But we just wanted to get an idea from you. And I had totally forgotten that you were a Raleigh guy. You and Rich and those whole crews. But I mean, we're talking an hour and 30 minutes, and that's what's.
I've made the drive more times than I want to admit.
85 and 40 are probably on your blinker, not even on your blinkers right now. It's just like me and Athens and Greenville, it might just put my car in drive and it just goes. But cool. Anything else you want to add before we let you off the leash here?
No, I look forward to seeing everybody at the Fundo.
Yep. Which reminds me, I'm going to plug it. The Project Echelon Grand Fundo. Are you going to do the 60, the 30, or the 12?
Whatever Joe wants me to do. Probably the 60.
Probably the 60 around the lake. Well, good. Well, it's March 19th, March 18th is the team launch. Hang on, I'm going to do a little follow-up with you. But Pat Rains, thank you so much for coming out of Florida with your brains intact and being able to spend some time with us.
Thanks, Chad.